Hi. Hi, I'm Jessica Graham Robinson, and thank you for making it to Embodied Yoga today. We're going to start really simple, and just to give you a little bit of information about my background. I've been teaching yoga for a lot of years, but it's only in the past few years that I've been working on bringing together two things that I feel are so important and so missing, and that's embodiment and yoga. We can get into more of the philosophies and all of that another time, but today I'm just going to be sharing a few practices with you that I think will be helpful. So embodiment is really just about being in your body and being able to live fully in and with your body instead of it just being something that's there but not present. Does that make sense? I hope so. So you don't really need anything for this practice. I have a yoga mat here, and that's a good idea, but you don't even have to have that. So let's start by sitting in a way that feels comfortable for you, which might be on the floor, it might be on a chair. I want to encourage you to do what feels really good. There's lots of different ways we can sit, and they're all valid and good. And I just want you to find a way to sit that feels comfortable and good for you. And then close your eyes and take a moment to tune in. You could also be lying down. So we're tuning into what your body is noticing right now. What is your body experiencing? Are you experiencing heat, warmth from the sun, or coolness from the air, or there goes a little breeze. So I want you to just see what you're taking in. There's like a couple different, there's so many different channels that we receive information. One is what we think of as the five senses. So touch, taste, hearing, smelling, and seeing. So right now you could first just let yourself notice those pieces. They're more obvious, but let's go through them. So what are you seeing? And even if your eyes are closed, what are you seeing? Just notice what you're taking in through your eyes. What are you hearing now? What are you smelling? Another way to say that might be, what are you noticing? That is, what information are you noticing as you breathe, as you pick up from your nose? And then from your mouth. Tasting. And then touch. So right now, what are you in contact with? What is touching your body? Clothing, the air, the place where you're sitting or lying down. So now we're going to just go even inside a little bit and just notice if Notice if you can notice anything, any sensations. So we'll differentiate between feeling and sensation. Like, so feeling, like there's so many different ways we feel, right? Like the five senses, but also our emotions are feelings, right? Anything that you observe could be a feeling in a way. Whereas sensation is more palpable. It's more, we're talking about what are you sensing within your body. So just notice it. Heaviness, lightness, more heaviness on one side than another. So we've kind of been trained in our lives to move away from sensing, right? Because we've been taught to not pay too much attention to the sensations or the feelings, because if we do, then we might not be able to do our work, or we might not be able to hold our responsibilities. But when we push them aside completely, then we experience other problems from that. So we want to try to be able, and what I'm hoping that we can do here with this embodied yoga class, is to be able to feel and be present with what the body is experiencing at the same time that we're able to interact in the world. And it takes practice. It's not always easy, as I'm sure you know. So now if your eyes are closed, go ahead and open them. And we're just going to do like some small movements centered around, again, just feeling right now. What does that feel like for you on the inside? What's the sensation or the feeling like for you? So I'm going to just try to make the spine long. And notice how in pressing into the floor and lengthening as we make the spine long, and that the seat might get lighter. So we're going to try to keep the seat, but keep the spine long. And go ahead and just reach your arms up. So it doesn't matter which way, you can bend your elbows to go up. You can go straight up. You can go out to the side. Do what feels good for your shoulder joint. So if you have any shoulder issues, going up the front is always going to be easier, or even bending first might be easier. So you're going to just reach. And if this is uncomfortable for you sitting wise, you definitely want to be sitting up on a bolster or a couple of blankets, or even in a chair. So meet yourself where you are. There's no other place to be. Take a deep breath. Reach. Notice what you're feeling in your ribs. You're going to make some little circles in the ribs. Take the whole rib cage back to the side, forward to the other side, and then other direction. And the arms can be doing whatever naturally they do when you do that. So you don't have to make sure they're stay in one place or anything. Right? And then the arms open. You're just gonna kind of go side to side. Just notice, what are you feeling in your body? What's your body telling you as you do this? You're gonna put one hand down and reach over. Other side. Experience your breath. Stay awake in your body. We're gonna bring the knees up and roll over onto your side. Come onto your hands and knees. Spread your fingers wide like tiger claws. Separate your knees from one another so that they're hip distance apart, and walk your knees back a little bit so that you're not too close. Okay. Soften. Soften the whole spine and the lower back, and let the sitting bones and the tailbone lift up. And then let the heart drape down as well. Lift your head. And then just tiny rocks back and forth. Notice what you're feeling in your pelvis, your lower back, your shoulders. Now we're going to do the opposite. So take a breath. And then exhale. And you're going to point the tailbone down and release the head. Really let go of your head. And then here too, we're just going to kind of go side to side in the hips a little bit. The head relaxed. Just noticing what you're feeling in your neck, in your shoulders, in your back. And then back to something kind of neutral in between. Notice how, like, in this way, this is what in yoga we call cow pose. And then this is what we call cat pose. And then this is more what they call table pose. It's kind of a balanced place in between, if you can see. Right, from this table place, where the spine is more neutral, like it would be if you were standing, we're gonna just start to do side winding. So think about how a snake moves. Think about like waves. So you're gonna do side waves. You're gonna let it start with the hips, right? So moving a hip to the right and the left, almost like dancing. And then let that wave reverberate up toward the head. Keep the hands really grounded. Notice what this feels like. And now we're gonna pause, get still, and then start with the head and the shoulders. You get more mobile up top, and then just let the hips follow. What that feels like. Notice your breath. And then we're gonna come get still again with that. Wiggle your toes around. Find a comfortable way to sit. If it's comfortable for you to sit back on your heels, that's great. Sit on a chair or sit cross-legged. And we're gonna keep the fingers open. We're gonna just kind of make figure eights or circles with your wrists. Just keep doing that. Moving your elbows with it too now. And then moving your arms with it. Any direction that feels good. Notice if there's a direction you feel like you're avoiding. Now we're gonna do this, okay? Kind of sideways for you, but breathing in, open, back to that cow kind of pose. Breathing out, close. You can even wrap your arms around. Breathing in, open. Breathing out, contract. Breathing in, breathing out. And back to neutral. And then finding a good place and just let your eyes gaze around your surroundings. Let your eyes find something they want to rest upon. And then as you look at that object or whatever you're seeing, just notice what that feels like on the inside in your body. If you notice anything. And let your eyes gaze somewhere else. Just notice what that feels like. If there are any sensations in the body associated with that, what you're seeing. And then close your eyes. Again, you can be seated in any kind of seated position, or you could be lying down. Close your eyes. Just notice any sensation in the body. Let your mind notice any sensation. Hopefully not a negative one. Try to find one that is neutral or positive. Name it, if possible, give it words. Maybe there's another sensation within that draws your attention. You can bring your awareness there. Slowly begin to let the eyes flutter back open. And as you see, whatever you see, also be aware of what you're having, the sensation that you might be having on the inside. Sometimes, maybe all of the time, depending on how aware we are, sometimes when we see things on the outside, it can stimulate a sensation, some kind of a physical response on the inside. So that's what we're trying to be aware of. So from here, we're on our knees. If you need a little more padding, you can put a blanket down underneath and just fold it and put it under your knees. It's kind of like those little gardening things for your knees. And we're gonna do this. We're gonna take a leg open to the side. Open the arms. Open the arms and reach. Do what feels good and notice what doesn't feel good. Notice if something feels like it's too much of a strain, or just that range of motion doesn't feel available to you right now, and that's okay. So my hips are facing forward, starting to get a little bit catty-cornered now or tipping over to my right, your left. So I'm gonna tip over. We're gonna place one hand down. It could be fingertips or the whole palm. You could also be up on a block if that feels better. We're gonna kind of energize the bottom, that foot, this foot. Kind of energize it and bring awareness to that foot and the whole leg coming up into the hip. And just place the hand on the bones right now and just feel and notice. And then let yourself start to kind of unfurl and uncurl and just open up into, just like if you were standing in a really good, strong stance. So you feel very upright, but in a sideways fashion. And we're going to take the arm and breathe and just notice what you're experiencing on the inside. Right? Maybe you feel, where do you feel things in your body? Oftentimes we're told to do things and we're just told to do them. And it doesn't really matter how it feels because it's more about doing the thing, the task, or even the yoga pose, sadly. So I want you to know that this is all, here we go, coming up. Breathe, tone your core a little bit as you come up. I want you to know that you have not only permission, but like all of the power is in your hands. And I want you to feel that way, that we're exploring some movements for the purpose of getting more into our bodies and growing that awareness and that. And this is gonna lead to more resilience down the road as you have more awareness of how your body moves and what's going on with it. So like, let's put the hands on the pelvis and feel these large, beautiful bones that make up your pelvis and your leg, both of your legs. This is you, all right? Have awareness in your foot, your toes, your leg, all the way up into your pelvis, all the way up, big reach. Just notice, where do you feel a stretch or a tickle or a tweak? Lowering the hand. And again, the top arm can stay on the bones. It can be anywhere that feels good. It's just helping us to add to the awareness, but also add to a stretch and an extension if it feels good. So let's take some breaths. Let's tune in and take a few deep breaths. Noticing what you're noticing. Again, let yourself identify with your pelvis, your bones, your body. And then we're going to come up. So you're going to tone and lift. And then just notice now, how does that feel different than before? Because it probably does. Hopefully it does. So one of the things that I've noticed, in addition to noticing when I'm working with people in a yoga teacher role or a body worker role, or any of the other roles, is that not only are we disconnected from our bodies in general, but we are disconnected also from our pelvises in a big way, because this area carries with it so many connotations. And oftentimes it seems like because it has the connotation with sexuality, for instance, that somehow that means like we have to disengage it when we're not in a situation that calls for that. And so I want to just open up that the idea for you that to start to own this part of your body as it's part of you, right? Sure, it's also part of your sexuality, but that is not all it is for. And it's an integral part of our bodies. And in order for us to live healthy lives, this has to be a part of our bodies that we make peace with. And also our bellies, because that's really a part of the pelvis too. So men or women, we all have these issues oftentimes associated with the belly not being as hard as we're shown it's supposed to be in magazines and movies. And I just want to give you permission to have a soft belly. Not that you needed my permission, but that bellies are soft, and they should be. The muscles are underneath, and they should be there too. but the softness in the belly doesn't go away. We don't need to make ourselves hard in order to be healthy. Okay, so we're going to stand now. So let's take a foot, press into it, stand up, and just notice your feet on the ground or on whatever surface you're on. See if you can just notice when you stand where your weight is in your feet, because oftentimes it's not even. Oftentimes it's in one leg more than another. And even if it's even in the legs, certain parts of the feet will carry more of the weight than others. So right now, just bring some awareness to that and see if you can think of the bottoms of your feet almost more like a rectangle, minus the toes, right? But the ball of the big toe, the ball of the inner heel, the ball above the little toe, and the outer heel. And if you could think of, you can even lift all 10 toes, and then how can we balance those 8 points? 4 on one side, 4 on the other. Not just front back, although that's important too, but also right left, and also diagonal, to one side and the other. So just noticing. And when you lift your toes, notice, what does that feel like in your legs? What changes? Let's drop the toes, relax the legs, and just notice what is most probably your norm. Notice if you bring awareness to your legs and your feet and see if you can notice what is slightly off balance, because we're not symmetrical. And then lift your toes again and hug your thigh muscles a little bit into the bones. And try for something more balanced, and then see even then what happens. Now I want you to bring your awareness to the big toe balls. So the toes are still up, the knees are not locked. Be careful that you don't lock your knees out, but there's a softness to them. So what we're gonna do right now is standing, awareness on the balls of the feet. Just push more, push, push. I'm doing this with my hands, but it's just to demonstrate what I'm doing with my feet. Push, push, and just notice what happens when you give more pressure on one side, right? Your leg, as you already know this, but just to bring awareness, if you use your hands to touch, you have an outside and an inside. It goes all the way up to your pelvis, right? You have a front and a back. It goes all the way up to your pelvis. This is my sitting bone I'm trying to touch under here, right? And all of that, there's muscles all the way around that have the ability to articulate and do really cool things. So if you start to notice as you shift, and you can take the feet a little wider, it might be easier. Knees are soft. Let it be not that you're trying to do like some kind of a dancey, wavy thing, but more that you're pushing and pushing and having an awareness of what's going on with all of these muscles. Like if you were to touch your inner thigh muscles right here when you do this, what happens? Different on one side than the other. Makes sense? You can touch all the way around. You can just notice. Now, just for awareness sake, I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. So here we've got thigh bone, thigh bone, thigh bone, thigh bone. Somewhere around in here we get to, femur head, and then top of the femur. Easier to feel if you're relaxed, but right around, for me, it's right here, top of the femur. And then we've got the top of the, what we think of as the hip bone, the ASIS, right up here. Right, and see those in relationship to one another. And then, like, if you can touch those two bones, find the, I think it's a little easier if you bend your knee and find the head of the bone right there. It can be a little tender. And then find the ASIS, right? Go back to your stance here. Push. Notice what's happening to these two bones. Let yourself relax and breathe naturally, but just notice what's happening with these two bones as I shift, pushing my way into my right foot and my left foot. Right foot, left foot. No other agenda, just opening the awareness and noticing. And we'll do the other side. So again, like, you have to lift the leg to find it. It can be tender right there. ASIS stands for anterior superior iliac spine. It's that bony, pointy spot that most people call their hip bones. And then just pressing with the feet and noticing what you're feeling. Breathing. Just relax and notice. Be in your body. Notice your breath. Relax your jaw. Soften your face. And there's no agenda except to notice, to broaden the awareness. Okay, now two hands, one hand on each ASIS. Or you could say the whole iliac, like the whole ilium right here, touching and feeling and noticing. And then let's touch the heads of the femurs. And again, both at the same time, and just notice. So many parts that are coming together here. It's really important to have an idea like of it conceptually, I think, but also just experientially in that same way. So I'm gonna turn so that you can see what I'm doing better. So we're gonna have, let's say we have 2 feet forward, parallel. We're gonna slide one leg back to a point that feels comfortable. And then put the heel down a little bit to a point that feels comfortable. Heel up is I actually prefer, but it's harder to balance. So up to you, what you want to do. The front knee, just to be aware, don't let it go past your ankle. If it starts to go past your ankle, you lose stability in your knee and your foot. Your heel might start to come off the floor. So we're going to bend the back knee a little bit. Again, easier with the knee down. Bend both of them. They're going to face completely different directions because this back leg is turned slightly. And again, hands on the hips, hands on the pelvis. Notice your bones. Hold your hands on your belly. Try to find something that feels kind of neutral in the pelvis, not manufactured. So there's like some give, there's some movement you could have in there. Let's take some deep breaths and just feel that. Then we're going to switch sides. We can pivot the feet. Find what feels good. Both knees bent. Notice the pelvis. Notice how when you take one leg back, the pelvis tends to tip a little bit. So that's why one reason why we're bending the back knee to find a little bit better of a neutral. Pay attention to your knees, that they're going in the direction of the toes of the foot that they are connected to. And just breathe. Maybe exploring a tiny bit of movement in the legs or the pelvis. So we're not stuck, we're not a statue. And then we're gonna come to the middle. I'm actually gonna turn the feet out a tiny bit. Again, always important, knees and toes, same direction. Knees and toes, same direction. So we're gonna go into that. Notice the pelvis. Let's come back up. Legs are long, straight but not locked. Hold one hand on the low belly. As this hand is occupying the space between my pubic bone and my navel. And then this hand is occupying the space where my sacrum is in my body. That triangular bone at the top of the pelvis, right above the tailbone, right? So feet wide, toes out a little bit. Notice the pelvis with the knees just ever so slightly soft, but not super bent, not squatting yet. Just notice, find a little movement, right, left, shifting, forward, back, right? Notice how there's so many variables, so many options, right? So now find what feels like neutral. And neutral is going to be not tucking. Okay, this is going to be tucking, so and not moving the hips too far back, but neutral is going to be in the middle, right? I'll show you again, tuck, untuck. So we don't want to tuck. Tucking is no good for us, for this, okay? So neutral, and now a little lunging. Notice what you feel in your heart, in your throat, in your belly, in your mind. And back up. Switch your arms, shoulders back, neutral pelvis, slow squat, knees over the toes. Notice even like if you're not used to doing any kind of holding like this, notice like the mind starts to get really squirrely. The mind starts to think of excuses to get out of this place. Slowly press back up. Now we're going to do it again, but this time hands on the thighs, and we're not going to lean into it. We're just touching the thighs. And again, stay with the sensation, breathing through the nose, stay with the sensation. Whatever sensations arise. And then slowly back up. Turning the toes forward, walking the feet back in. Stand on 2 feet and notice what you notice about your stance, about your stability, about your flexibility in this moment, physically and mentally, about your breath. The arms start to float upward, outward. Wiggle your fingers, stretch, open and up. If that feels good. Now, if that doesn't feel good, don't do it. If it doesn't feel good, notice where it starts to not feel good. Is it here? Right? Maybe you switch. Maybe you go forward. Maybe still there's a catch. Can you just be there? Can you just be happy right before the catch and just play with the range of motion that exists right now? Can we be rooted in the feet, awake in our pelvis, alive in our hearts, and exploring in the world through our senses and through our relationships? so that we have an embodied, fuller experience of life? I think we can. I think we can. I think we'll be better off if we do. I'm coming in for a quick time check. Let's see where we are. Not sure on the time right now. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, so we're getting close. So one of the things I want to do right now, because again, the hips are such a vital piece, is give you a small little stretch that you can do anytime, super easy. If you think it's not easy, then it's just because you're sitting on the floor, most likely. So your options would be to sit up higher on a couple of blankets, or to just put yourself in a chair, right? Like I have this handy little step behind me I could sit on. It's always important, and I'm sure that we will get more into this as we go, but it's always really important that your spine in particular is able to flow and be free and natural, and that it's long, and also in most cases, almost all of the time, that you have the curves that all three curves in your spine. So the one at the bottom is, we'll call your lumbar curve. That would be, if I sit upright well, there's a little curve right here at the base, right, that goes in. You can see, like, from here, here's the sacrum, and then that tips forward, and then the lumbar curve goes in a little. And then as we go up through the spine, if we remove the shoulder blades, there's a slight forward curve in the upper back that should be there. When we put the shoulder blades back on, it doesn't look like there's a curve, but there is. And then in the neck, there's another curve that mimics the lumbar curve. And so these two are forward, the thoracic curve is back. And it's really important that we have those curves. However, because we're a culture of a lot of sitting, the lumbar curve for some people is non-existent. Or actually, I've seen in some people that it goes in the opposite direction, which is really, truly dangerous, because all of your vertebrae have little discs in between them and outlets, little holes, little outlets for the nerves and the blood vessels, and so many important pieces. And when things aren't lined up properly, the space for the sacs, the discs, and the space for the outlets can get very much diminished. And in that case, we can get less functioning in certain parts of our bodies where those nerves go, or we can get hypersensitivity, like with sciatica. We can get places where we can get neuralgia, where we don't feel anything, or where something doesn't work, and it's not good. In the very least, pain. So if you're not sure, you can ask someone to look at your lower back. You can try to sit up and look in the mirror, but remembering that the lower back needs to have a tendency to go forward, needs to curve forward. And the other thing that we do a lot in our culture right now is looking at screens, whether it's a computer screen or even studying, even like reading books in school, or looking at phones and devices, and that begins to flatten the neck curve and also to take that neck forward. So these are also things, as we start to pay more attention to being in our bodies, instead of reaching out for or doing things for arbitrary reasons, we start to be more aware of how it feels to be in our bodies. And we'll start to notice, oh, that doesn't feel great. And make better choices. And as we gain more body awareness, same thing. So the hips tend to be very tight in people. I've noticed that a lot. And if I don't move and make an effort, then they're very tight in me as well. So this is really important. So sitting up on a couple of blankets or on a step or on a chair, whatever feels right for you. We're going to take one leg. So if you're mirroring me, this would be your right leg. You're going to pull it up and we're going to pull it over. So this is the piece where if you're really kind of stiff in your hips and your legs and your lower body in general, this might be difficult to just pull the leg over in this way. And be honest, because where you are is the only place you can be, and trying to do something other than that is ludicrous and will get you in trouble, injured. All right, so if you're sitting up, it's exactly the same. You're just pulling the knee in and over to the opposite side. So this leg is connected here to the hip. This side, we're pulling it to the opposite side. So we're going to pull it with the opposite arm. You can use both arms, but more so to that. There's a tiny twist involved right here, but it's not the biggest part of this. I'm not twisting right now because I'm focusing on what's going on right here. And you may feel this in multiple places depending on where you have the most adhesion in your body, where you have the most stuckness. Right? So somewhere around in here, we're feeling that. You can play around with what happens if I lift that hip up? Does that make it more intense, less intense? What happens if I lean forward or lean back or lean over? So you're gathering information. Your body is gathering information with every little thing that you do. Whether you are mentally processing it or not, it doesn't matter. Like whether it's registering with, your conscious mind, it's happening. Your body is coming to a place that is more balanced and a place that is safer and better for you because your body is intelligent and it always makes the most intelligent choice. So you're just breathing. Relax the jaw, tightness in the jaw and tightness in the hips go together. Again, we'll talk more about that another time, I'm sure, if you stick around here. One of my favorite subjects. Breathing. Now we're gonna, if you're on the floor or if you're seated on a chair, we're gonna just drop it there on the leg. And just see how that feels. And then flex this foot so you protect the knee. And then just see what happens if you lean. What happens if we lean a little bit without rounding the lower back? Just leaning the way. Sometimes also having your arms up or up and out will help because it's giving you a little bit of leverage. So a similar area, but this I feel more up toward the knee. I mean, in that direction on the leg. Now we're going to switch sides. So here we go. Hugging in and up, over. And noticing. So that's really all we're doing is being in our bodies, breathing, being alive, noticing. Notice. What does that feel like? What's going on with my hip? This is what we're stretching right now. A part of is the posterior hip. It's the back of the hip attachments from the femur, where we located the femur, back toward the sacrum. We located that too. best to breathe through your nose always, most of the time, and especially when exercising. And do your best to really stretch your breath, to breathe down into your belly, into your lower back, finding more of a full, whole breath instead of just up in the chest. So again, we'll just kind of let this one slowly drop open if that feels okay. I want you to notice at every step along the way what things are feeling like, because that is way more important than doing something that arbitrarily. So see if it feels okay to lean a little bit. Don't forget to flex this foot. Breathe and notice how the sensation changes when you shift in this way. And coming up, again, I'll ask you to sit up tall on something if you need to, anytime you're seated. We're gonna move into a final position that is more relaxing, more restful. And if you have 2 pillows with you, I would like you to go grab those, and or it could be 2 folded blankets, anything could work. It just needs to be, might need to be sizable. So if you pause and go grab that, here's what we're gonna do. We're going to lie back. We're going to bring the bottoms of the feet together and let the knees fall open. But what's important is that when we lie back, that we're going to support with a blanket or a pillow under these 2 legs. So that, because if it's a lot of a stretch, it can feel aggravating. Even if it doesn't feel aggravating to you, you don't think it does, it feels aggravating to your nervous system. All right, so get those 2 pillows. You're gonna roll back, or you might just lay down and then open up. I don't happen to have 2 pillows with me, and so just this once I'm going to do it without the pillows. Just for a couple minutes here. So we're going to place one hand on the low belly. Again, we're shooting for the space between the pubic bone and the navel, and then one hand on the heart. I'm just going to close the eyes. Notice the sensations notice anything that you can feel and hear and see and smell and anything around you. And then slowly bring your awareness more internally. And begin to notice the sensations within your body. As you breathe, Another possibility for your hands would be to place them on those two, the ASIS, hip points that we talked about. Have an awareness of your body and space. Have an awareness of any sensation within your body. If anything does not feel good about this, then you can bring the knees back up and do kind of the opposite, where you walk the feet out and let the knees fall in. This might be something you want to try anyway after just a few minutes to experience the opposite. See if you can have a sense of gratitude for this body, all that it does. When you're ready, just start to move your fingers and your toes in ways that feel good to you. And then slowly incorporating a little bit more movement. Maybe having your feet flat on the floor and then letting the knees go over to one side and then the other as you take deep breaths on each side. This alone can be a good massage for those muscles in the posterior hips. Just notice what that feels like. Back to a still point. And then when you're ready, rolling to your side, using the hand opposite to push up to a comfortable, back to a comfortable place to sit. And again, just get back to a still point and notice. Notice something inside. It's in your body. Notice something outside that's pleasant to look at. Back to noticing something internally. Grateful for your body, your breath, for all of the amazing processes that go on without you even thinking about them. And grateful for the ability to constantly recreate, adapt, heal, and grow. powerful for you. Thank you for watching. The divine within me acknowledges, honors, sees the divine within you. Namaste. Thank you, friends. I hope this was a positive experience for you.